and the world. Lucas Lawman's Kiwi Voice on this Wednesday, the 6th of July, with a news roundup and update for you. So thanks for taking the time to hang out with us. Really appreciate you doing so. We're going to focus on politics this afternoon. Apologies to anyone that tuned in for the earlier live. Technical issues continue as we battle restream third-party streaming software to Facebook, but we will deal with it. We're trying something a little bit different here, incognito. So again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Here on Wednesday, the 6th of July, here is absolutely, I've got a message coming through there. Excellent, we hear you, brilliant, love it. All right, so here is what's making news. Oh, and I'm getting told no audio again. Okay. What is up? Good. Excellent. Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate the fans helping us out. So, yep, so you can hear me. All good. Yay, I have audio. Excellent. Appreciate it. Yeah, look, been a battle. I'm trying to actually practice, team. I'll be totally honest with you and get this as structured and succinct and clear and professional as possible, hence the use of the streaming software. Anyway, here is what's making news. PM Jacinda Ardern continues her international travels, appearing on the Aussie version of the project, where she has denied NZ has been, quote, smearing and demonising China's cooperation with the Pacific Island nations, i.e. their recent security accords put in place with the Solomons and others. Not at all. China has been present in the Pacific for a long time. They have been there as often aid and development partners for a number of years. I think the only point we're making is that for all of the engagement that we are seeing, be it from China or be it from France or from the UK or the country on engagement, that to me, team, would actually be counterintuitive with what has actually been happening in reality in terms of the inflammatory rhetoric, sanctions, joining the world global chorus, or has popped up recently, the liberal world order, and condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which is a terrible thing. But in terms of actually assisting the situation, saying here that we are neutral, that isn't true. Moving on, though, recent comments made on diplomacy made at the Chatham House event that she was at over there as well were explored by the project, where Jacinda was challenged on whether diplomacy would work to deter China from invading Taiwan, which obviously it hasn't so far with Russia. Now, my comment to that would be attempts of diplomacy haven't failed. They haven't been tried, really, not really, in this situation, Ukraine and Russia. The USA has assisted in inflaming this war since 2014 and continues to do so along with the rest of Europe, and with increased funding for weapons and persistent inflammatory rhetoric. That's like my favorite saying at the moment, inflammatory rhetoric, but there's certainly a lot of that going on. The voices from the left and from the conservative side that are deriding this war and crying out for diplomacy and trying to tell the true story, they are getting shut down and condemned as the mob cancel culture these days seems to occur. Moving on, over at the opposition, Chris Luxon, our favourite national leader, continues, as the PM continues these overseas efforts. Chris has had yet another crack at the easy target that is Labour policy at the moment, with regards to the lack of action over a dire staff shortage. By now, I'm sure we are all aware of the critical shortage in multiple industries. Most notably, our health sector, as covered extensively on Kiwi Voice, with nurses and midwives in dire need. The word crisis has been thrown out a lot recently, but that's because it's apt. Chris Luxon had this to say on that matter, speaking with AM Ryan Bridges on Wednesday morning, which is this morning, and Ryan's one of the few mainstream media journalists that are actually pushing power and holding power to account. Not always correct, does go probably a little hard and not letting answers come out, but doing the best job out of what we have. He said the government has to take action. Chris Luxon said the government has to take action to solve the issue before New Zealand loses its international reputation. It doesn't matter which sector you go to, which part of the country you go to. We've got labour shortages everywhere, and it is actually constraining productive growth in the economy. We really need to make sure we remove the bottlenecks, and the biggest bottlenecks we've got is our immigration settings, Luxon told AM. So pretty sort of standard stuff. Rhetoric is the word I would use once again coming out of Chris Luxon's mouth there. He's saying the right stuff, absolutely, but whether that's going to translate to anything, should they get in power, or whether the opposition is actually going to become more meaningful, we shall see. However, based on face value, it is one of the few things I have agreed with Luxon on recently. It seems to me to be the most simple solution. That's not all that was required, but it is absolutely a key step in helping to solve this crisis, and that is to put nurses and midwives on the priority list for immigration, fast tracking and visas. Why they haven't now is absolutely bananas. I just don't understand it. For some reason, our government is unwilling to do so. Really, really disappointing. To back up what the Labour government is not doing, former immigration minister and their form of hypocrisy, Chris Fafoy defended that decision in May, saying it would not be good if we attracted nurses here, gave them residence, then they went off and did something else. We need them in those positions because of the health position that we are in. Would you believe? Now, this guy, Michael Woods, he stated, if we need to make adjustments now, he's the immigration minister now, obviously Fafoy has left, but Michael Woods has stated, if we need to make adjustments, if we move forward to get to the outcomes, then I will certainly be open to doing that. Now, what's actually stopping you? One, what's stopping you? Just do it. Two, remember, this is Michael Woods, the slimiest of politicians, who uttered the river of filth infamous comment back in February. And us Kiwis don't forget that. Your moral character, Michael Woods, is not good. So why should we believe anything really that comes out of your mouth? Probably harsh words from me, but it's how I feel about the job that guy is doing. Back in Australia with PM's trip over there, Jacinda Ardern in Melbourne now, and she has met with Victorian Premier Dan Andrews to discuss anything and everything political, according to most reporting. Now, this is of particular concern to me, I have to admit. I'm concerned about this guy. So Dan Andrews, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail now when we've got a quote coming up later on, which we'll end this section with, from the PM in regards to Premier Dan Andrews. It's a real concern. Why? Well, when you take a look at his record through the pandemic and his leadership during times of some of the largest protests in Melbourne and Victoria's history, not to mention New South Wales and Brisbane, Queensland, all at the same time, he treated the people of Victoria beyond awful during that time. And these people were just purely protesting against their loss of democratic rights in response to the enactment of the infamous and still in place, would you believe, Pandemic Management Bill. This granted extraordinary powers of mandatory isolation, lockdowns and vaccinations, as well as a raft of other powers that were given to Dan Andrews. Absolutely bananas, and these are the scenes and one of a million photos and shots that we could put up there in Melbourne during the time that this was happening. Melbourne also still holds the record for the most lockdown city in the world, and the policing of COVID restrictions is some of the most brutal we have seen worldwide, as shown in some of these, again, shots. Is a great documentary I urge you to go and watch if you want to understand this in more detail, by Topher Field. Just look up Topher Field on Facebook. I'll have a look when we finish this live and chuck it up on the description, the link to it. It's easily accessible on Facebook. It's a full documentary and details from go to woe, the start and end of the protest movement in Melbourne in the face of this sort of behaviour. Now, this was all under Dan Andrews' watch. In fact, he advocated for it strongly. In fact, the legislation, emergency legislation that was brought in over there, was used to its absolute utmost to bring about a police state for a period of time. These scenes are all in response to just peaceful protests. There's nothing to indicate that they weren't peaceful until disrupted, much like the scene on the last day in Wellington. Some of this is some of the most brutal stuff. So it really does concern me, that Battleground Melbourne, you're exactly right. It really does concern me that we are cozying up so close. And you think, well, it's just a diplomatic trip. But here we go. The quote that we're going to close this off on. Ardern says she has had quite a bit of contact with Victoria's Premier Dan Andrews over the last few years, and he's become a friend, so it was fantastic to catch up in person. The pair spoke about their experiences with the pandemic over the past 2 years and plans for the future. Let's just read that again in light of the background I've just given you of Dictator Dan and his handling of the pandemic and the management of Victoria over the last couple of years. Ardern says she has quite a bit of contact with Victoria's Premier over the last few years, and he's become a friend. So it was fantastic to catch up in person. Look, that's wow. Absolutely wow. We don't really want to be associated in that manner. We've got to do our diplomatic best. Absolutely. We've got to keep relationship real. But to cozy up and say a friend, that they've learnt from each other. I mean, again, protesters were derided, dismissed as conspiracy theorists, as happened here. Nut jobs, despite the fact that they were from so many walks of life. And if you think the PM and her cronies were bad when it came to human rights and attacks on democracy more recently, this guy, Dan Andrews, is absolutely next level. They talk everything and anything else, politics, no doubt about it. But it chills me somewhat when you understand what this man is capable of, that they are that close. I'll leave you with that thought, team. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Second time round. If you hadn't had a look at the first Silent Live, I really do apologise. And really thankful for all the followers and fans and friends and family that stay with us as I continue on this learning journey of one and help. Can't do this without Jen in the background there. I appreciate you, Jen. Thank you very much. But this is still absolutely just a hobby, team, and we're doing our absolute best to cram in this stuff in between parenting and a full-time day job, etc. So I'm very grateful for everyone that pays attention to what is more of a passion project for me and what I feel is also somewhat my duty. I'm waffling. Thanks for tuning in, team. Hit that send stars button if you support us. Comment down below, share the links. For now, team, stay safe, stay free. We'll see you again real soon.